that we're lacking something, i.e. that in itself was a huge chesed Hashem did with us.
Welcome to Prism of Torah with Reb Asaf Aharon Prisman, engaging Divrei Torah, packed with stories and practical insights. Find us wherever you get your podcasts or at prismoftorah.org.
Shalom Avrocha. In this week's Parsha, Parshas Eikev, there's a lot to speak about, but we know we're all very busy in this period of time, and hence I'll try to keep it short. A phenomenal idea I saw brought down by the Chasam Sofer. In the Pasuk it says, Perek Tes, Pasuk Aleph and Beis, it says, Shema Yisrael, listen up, Klal Yisrael, you're now about to pass the Jordan River and to conquer the lands where there are big, strong nations that built very, very strong cities, and you're still going to beat them. Rashi on the spot says, yes, you're strong yourself, but you should know they're stronger than you. Chasam Sofer asks, Hare, already from the time of Avraham Avinu, from the time of Avraham Avinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu promised Klal Yisrael that they will conquer, and Eretz Yisrael is theirs. So why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu set it up in such a way that it will be so difficult for them to conquer? Why did He allow such strong nations to be in the land in the first place? And why did He allow them and orchestrate it that they will be able to build very strong cities? We would like to add another question. The Midrash Rabbah, Gimel Yud over here, says the following. On this pasuk it says, the halacha is, any person, any Jew that drinks water out of thirst, and this is the halacha, he has to say a bracha. He has to say a bracha. The first bracha he says before he drinks is a machlokes. What bracha he says? We are all familiar with Shehakol Nia Bidvaroi, because that is what Chachamim say. That's a Gemara in Brachos, and that's the way the halacha is paskin. And hence, if someone drinks water out of thirst, even though it doesn't really have a taste, but the fact that it quenches your thirst, and you're thirsty, you say a bracha, Shehakol Nia Bidvaroi. However, Rabbi Talfon says to say a different bracha. We're all familiar with this bracha because this is an after bracha for many things that we have, for water, for many other brachas as well. And he says the first bracha that you say before drinking water is Borei nefashois rabois v'chesroinon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are the creator to quench whatever we need, and also you created the things we lack, i.e. the fact that we're thirsty screams that we're lacking something. We need to drink, or else we can't continue to survive. So we bless HaKadosh Baruch Hu for creating that chisaron in us, that lack that we need to drink, and the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us what we need, the actual drink. So first of all, question number 2, what in the world does this have to do with the pasuk we just said? Why is the Midrash Rabbah on this pasuk? What does it have to do with the fact that Klal Yisrael came to conquer these very strong cities with strong nations that are stronger than Klal Yisrael? What's going on over here? And question number 3, if you think about it, it is weird. We're thanking Hashem for creating us as vulnerable entities that we require to drink, which brings us to a more fundamental question. And that is, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu create us in such a way that we'll be vulnerable and that will require to have a drink? Why not just create us in the way that we won't need to drink? To answer all these questions, the idea is very simple, very strong, and we have to live by it because it is so true and it's a game changer. Zok de Chasam Sofer. The mere fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us in such a way that we're lacking something, i.e. that we require to continue to eat, to continue to drink, that in itself was a huge chesed Hashem did with us. Why? That is because only thanks to the fact that we are vulnerable, it's a continuous reminder that we are dependent on the Creator. We are dependent on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Without His help, we're nothing, we're zero. And we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world to give us a ticket into Olam Haba, to the eternal world, in a way that we won't feel embarrassed. And hence we have to deserve it. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to make sure we have a constant reminder what life is all about, and that constant reminder will ensure that we come to the acknowledgement and realization that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, and He created us here for the mere fact to be meitiv to us, to do good for us, so that we'll be able to get a ticket in to the Olam Haba. And that is exactly why we're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu and blessing Him for creating us in a way that we're vulnerable and we're lacking things. Because it is thanks to the fact that we are lacking these things that we can easily come to His recognition, to the recognition that Hashem is running the world, and appreciate that. And that will pave the path to Olam Haba. And it's very interesting. That's how we end the bracha of Borei Nefashois. We say at the end, blessed are you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch that you created the worlds in plural, not just the world, the worlds. Also this world, Olam Hazeh, that Hashem created us here to give us an opportunity to get the ticket in to the eternal world, to Olam Haba, to the world to come, and also the world to come itself, Olam Haba. And that's why it's very related to our pasuk in our parsha. And why is that? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu on purpose wanted to ensure that we won't fall into the pitfall that the Yetzer Hara tries to create for us. And that is, Kochi ve'otzim yadi asali et hachayil hazeh, as the pasuk says also in this week's parsha. The Yetzer Hara tries to convince us, come on, it's thanks to me. Look what I created. I opened up this business. It's working amazing. Or whatever it is, everything you can associate to you. Oh, it's because of me that I managed to be successful. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to make sure that we don't fall into that pitfall. And he says, I created enemies that b'derech hateva, nature-wise, there's no way we can beat them. They're way stronger than us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did that, and that is the biggest chesed, because now when we actually beat them, and we were able to conquer the cities on the other side of the Jordan River, Eretz Yisrael, it'll help us beat the Yetzer Hara and scream out, yes, it's thanks to Hashem that is helping us beat these fortified cities, these nations that are so strong, that b'derech hateva, naturally speaking, they're way stronger than us. And it's against all odds that we'll beat them, but we still manage to beat them. And why is that? That's only because it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And hence, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts us in situations that are a nisayon for us, and we went through difficult times, or when a person was almost in an accident and still managed to persevere, we have to come to that recognition that the fact that we were in that situation is also chesed Hashem. And that's why we always say a bracha about these things also. We say a bracha also on the difficult things we went through, to come to the appreciation that HaKadosh Baruch Hu orchestrated it. And it's only really to get us close to Him. And that's why also in this week's parsha it talks about Nes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did all these things al menat lenasoischa, to test us out. But as we mentioned in previous podcasts, lenasoischa, the word Nes also means miracle in Lashon HaKodesh, but also means Nes litnoses. It comes from the word that it helps to elevate us. The nisyonis that we go through are a mechanism, are a tool for us to move up in our game, in spirituality, and get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Arav Eliyahu Dessler in Michtav Eliyahu says, you have to be very careful, because the Yetzer Hara, what it tries to tell us is, when it comes to any physical thing, Gashmias, it says, yeah, thanks to me, I learned really hard, I got a good degree, now I can work, I have an amazing job. Yeah, it's because what I managed to do. And that's very dangerous. It's as if the parnas is coming from me. No, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is amazing mefarnes. He gives us everything. And yes, there's a very strong optical illusion, it's true. And a lot of us fall in this pitfall. But you have to realize it is all coming from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But there is one place you should give yourself a pat on the back and realize that it is up to you. The game is in your hands, and you choose your own fate and destiny. And that is in spirituality. As we know, Chazal tell us numerous times, Hakol bidei shamayim chutz miras shamayim. It's all about how much we fear Hashem in a positive sense, that we want to get close to Hashem. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu lets us make the decision. Are we going to choose right, or are we chas v'shalom going to choose wrong? So to summarize, before we end off with the story, the chesroinus themselves is a big chesed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does for us. A vulnerability we have, or difficult times a person goes through, that in itself is a chesed Hashem is doing for us. Because then it is easier to come to the recognition we are totally dependent on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and hence we don't lose focus about what life is all about, and we ensure we're always continuously trying to step up our game in spirituality and getting closer to Hashem, be it through mechanisms of Ben Adam l'Chaveiro, Ben Adam l'Makom. We always have to continuously try to up our game and get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to mimic His midos, and through that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help us defeat our enemies which are all around us. And perhaps that's also a chesed, despite the fact that it's so difficult, these times that we're going through. But we have to come to recognition it's only through HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we'll be able to persevere, and that is also chesed Hashem. I would like to end with a very simple story that happened a year ago around in a call that my friend went to. And one day someone came with a lot of rogelachs and danishes, and he said to everyone, a huge miracle happened to me yesterday. I crossed the streets and literally a car hit me, and I jumped, and I managed to somehow roll myself off the car, and I came out of it without a scratch. Everyone was very amazed. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. And they gave him a bracha. they should have a long life, etc., etc. Which, of course, one can ask the question in his mind, well, but why did Hashem put him in that situation? But based on the Dvar Torah we said today, the answer is very obvious. That in itself is chesed, because now he can come easily to the recognition that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world. And it's only for us to get a ticket into Olam Haba. The next morning comes a different person, and he does the same thing. An amazing thing happened to me. Everyone was in shock. What? You too? What happened? He said, I actually crossed the street and nothing happened to me. They said, yeah, so what? That happened to all of us every day. Dozens of times every day. He goes, yeah. But after what I saw yesterday, I came to the appreciation that yes, every day, nothing happens to us. That's unbelievable. That in itself we should thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for. That's the story. And he also brought the same danishes, same everything. But there's a deep idea over here. And perhaps, if we work on ourselves and are proactive in coming to the recognition that everything's coming from Hashem, and the fact we have an opportunity to live in this world, to get a ticket into the eternal world, that huge chesed Hashem gives to us, then perhaps the nisyonos won't have to come our way. Perhaps the wars that we won't have to go through them in order to come to the realization that Hashem is running the world, which is a huge chesed for us to be focused on why HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in this place during this time. Have a good Shabbos.
This concludes another episode of the Prism of Torah. Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something valuable. If you did, please subscribe to the podcast and give a 5-star rating. You can also find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, or our own website, prismoftorah.com, where we have a full archive of all our past episodes. We would like to thank Yona Vefa for the recording equipment and Eli Podcast Productions for handling all our post-podcast productions. Join us next week for another enlightening conversation on the Prism of Torah.